Hello and welcome back to another video for Final Fantasy XIV with me, Meoni. Now, I would lie to you and say that this would be a short video, but it really isn't. That's because if you look at this, it's quite a big document, and I wanted to read through this because it goes into the finer details. I do apologize for scrolling so fast there, because obviously that's going to give someone nausea, but it's enormous. It goes into the further details of data center travel and indeed the Japanese data center world redistribution. I'm not going to read the entire thing because obviously we're going to, read the important bits, which is the message from Yoshida and some other details as well. But for the most part, it is a good idea to check this website out, so I'll link it in the description for you to look at in your own leisure. But let's read through this. So first of all, the message from Naoki Yoshida, the producer and director of Final Fantasy XIV. He says, "Greetings, Warriors of Light. During the 69th letter from a producer live, we introduced details regarding data center travel and the world redistribution expected in upcoming 6.x patches. However, in an attempt to avoid divulging development information prematurely, I provided insufficient explanation, which has caused uncertainty and confusion in a number of players, particularly within the Japanese data centers. For this, I am truly sorry. During the same broadcast, I also stated that the data center travel would be implemented before the world redistribution. However, both will be implemented at the same time. I would like to apologize for this misstatement as well. Please rest assured that world redistribution will not occur before data center travel is implemented. To provide clarity on these issues, I've outlined the purpose and significance of the new data center travel system, as well as our reasoning behind the world redistribution and the systems in place to support it. To reduce disruption caused by the world redistribution of Japanese data centers, the Homeworld Transfer service will be free to use for a limited time. After reviewing feedback from players, we've decided to ensure that this time period occurs before land in the new residential district becomes available for purchase in 6.1. We'll also reimburse those players who have ended up transferring worlds immediately after the 69th letter from a producer live aired. Further details regarding this can be found in the free Homeworld Transfers and Bonuses section below. Patch 6.1, Newfound Adventure, has entered its final stage of development, he says, and our team is hard at work debugging and fine-tuning its story and other content to create an experience worthy of this new beginning. As always, thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoy the journeys that yet await you in Final Fantasy XIV." End quote. Very nice. It's very important that Yoshida come forward and obviously talk about this, especially since a lot of the details are seemingly incorrect from the live letter, and yeah, as he says, he's apologized, but these things happen. Scheduling things is difficult, and a lot of it is based on player interaction, as he said. So, it does require a certain amount of player feedback for things to go in the correct direction. And as usual, who do we trust more than Naoki Yoshida to listen to everything that we say? Honestly, I wouldn't trust anyone else in any of the other industries, quite honestly, looking at people from other game companies, cough cough. But yeah, that's a solid statement. So to go into further detail then, data center travel and Japanese data center world redistribution. The data center travel will be added in 6.18, allowing players to travel beyond the boundaries of their logical data center and interact with significantly more players. Furthermore, the Meteor data center will be added around July 2022 as the fourth Japanese data center following Elemental, Gaia, and Mana. In conjunction with this, a number of existing worlds will be redistributed under the Meteor data center. This addition and redistribution will considerably increase the number of simultaneous logins, which will help with congestion-related issues such as those experienced during the release of new expansions. We understand that this will be a significant inconvenience to those in affected communities, but would appreciate your understanding and cooperation. In this article, we'd like to explain what will be possible through data center travel, as well as what will be affected by the world redistribution. So this affects basically everybody. They've put it into one document. So as you can see, there is a table of context. We're just going to read through this. So this specifies what data center travel actually is. Then it says data center travel is a feature that will be implemented in 6.18, allowing players to visit another logical data center, a logical DC, as they say here, to socialize and participate in matchmaking. Currently, player characters belong to a logical data center, such as Ether, Primal, Crystal, etc., and are limited to playing with others within that same logical data center. With the upcoming data center travel feature, for example, players from Ether will also be able to play with others in Primal and Crystal. The data center travel process typically takes somewhere between less than a minute to 3 minutes to complete. We hope you'll make use of this feature and socialize with your newfound neighbors. So we've got a time reference for that. Just so you know, it can obviously spike up a lot more than that based on, congestion that may occur. It says activities available whilst visiting other logical data centers. This is the bit that was most important to me. So similar to the world visit system, you can take part in a wide variety of activities such as chatting through, say, party yell, shout and tell, joining and chatting in cross-world link shells created in a destination logical data center, adding players to your friend list, forming and recruiting parties, progressing through quests, social interaction in various in-game locations such as cities, areas and residential districts, participation in various in-game content such as dungeons, raids and PvP, crafting and gathering, excluding the unspoiled and legendary gathering nodes, obviously, and purchasing items from a market board. There is an asterisk here that says, in addition to the world visit system restrictions, free company chat and cross-world link shell in other logical data centers, PvP teams and fellowship features, aside from searching, will be restricted. That's one of the major restrictions on this, but as you can see, the majority of this is something that we've already experienced and know of from World Visit, so it's very much like that. You can pretty much, copy and paste that sort of ideology going forward. With the addition of data center travel, you'll be able to use your main character to play outside of your homeworld's logical data center without having to create new characters specifically for visiting another logical data center. The scope of your communication and gameplay will expand dramatically as you can participate in raids with others, play with previously unreachable friends and acquaintances, tour player housing, participate in player events, and more. Very cool. Very, very cool. So how do data centers function? So this is for a better understanding. We're not going to read everything here. As you can see here, there's your logical data centers for all of those regions. This is the current distribution of worlds. Tells you basically logical data centers, physical data centers, the difference between those. This stuff should be, for the most part, quite self-explanatory. So how data center travel works, this is an important part. To reiterate, data center travel allows players to move their characters to another logical data center, enabling them to use features that are linked to the destination logical data center. Until now, logical DCs have been a sort of barrier to players, but this will be overcome with data center travel. Though there will be some restrictions, you can generally think of this feature as something that enables you to play with all players in the same physical data center. So logical data centers are groups of places, and then physical data centers is your region. So just to reiterate, this is not cross-region. So I can't play from Chaos and go and join people on Ether at the moment, right? In its current form, as this is coming out, this will not be possible. However, in the future, they are talking about exploring avenues that allow that to be possible. So when the patch does inevitably come out, I will be able to transfer temporarily and then come back between Chaos and Light, being a Europe player, and the same can be said for all of the North American logical data centers on their own physical data center. If that helps, hopefully that's cleared that up, because I know some people were a little bit confused about that. Next up, the Japanese data center expansion and world distribution. So this is what the current state of that is. It says, due to how logical data centers are structured, there is a maximum number of simultaneous character logins on any given logical data center. The more worlds there are in a logical DC, the lower of the maximum number of logins per world. So the more of these servers you have connected to a data center, the more restricted you are of logins. So as you can see with the Japanese data center, they sorely need another one. That's the main reason for this. Over the course of many years of operations, we've been able to accommodate a larger number of logins by improving the performance of the server equipment that makes up each world. However, due to the aforementioned limits of logical DCs, the number of logins cannot be increased any further on worlds in the Japanese data center, unlike those belonging to the North American and European data centers. This makes these worlds more susceptible to long login queues during times of congestion, such as immediately after the release of an expansion, and the lack of an efficient resolution to this problem has been apparent. To this end, we'll add a new logical data center, Meteor, and reduce the number of worlds per logical data center to 8. This will enable us to significantly increase the number of maximum simultaneous logins per world by around 2,000. So that's not an insignificant number, is it? That's quite a lot. Taking into account the floor space of the physical data centers housing the server equipment, as well as a shortage of semiconductors, this is the fastest and most efficient method of large-scale expansion. This method involves redistributing a large number of existing worlds to Meteor, and we apologize for the inconvenience this will cause to the community, but ask for your understanding and cooperation as we strive to stabilize operations for the overall Japanese data center. So this is what this will look like afterwards. As you can see, I mean, I don't know if you play on any of these, probably some of the standout viewers of mine, at least, that speak English will be people on Tonbury server, for example. A large Oceanic community still exists there, even if there is Oceanic servers. Tonbury is very much English speaking for the most part, unofficially. It looks like you're not really being affected in the slightest, you're staying on Elemental. However, there are obviously much less people on those physical places to obviously interact with directly. Overworld Redistribution will change the affiliated logical DC of the worlds moving to Meteor. There will be no charge for the data associated with a character, such as their affiliated world, character name, guild, items, housing, friend list, and so on. Free companies and link shells for communicating within a world will also still be available. Keep in mind that although the world redistribution may separate you from players on other logical data centers, you'll still be able to socialize and participate in duties with them by using the data center travel. So even if, you know, you've lost somebody because they've gone to, I don't know, Yojimbo on Meteor now, you can move between those things as long as it is on the physical data center, not just the, you know, the actual logical data center. So Japan will still be able to play with everybody on Japan more than they currently can, in fact. So it's a good thing. Members of PvP teams and fellowships who move to another logical DC will be automatically removed. As for cross-world link shells, the member list at the time of the world redistribution will be retained, and members will be able to chat in the cross-world link shells when they are in the same logical DC using the data center travel. So you actually have to, you know, transfer your character temporarily using the travel system, and from the main menu of a character select window, and you'll be able to talk like usual, but you won't be able to use that cross-world link shell not on the same logical data center, if that makes sense. Once more, we would like to sincerely apologize for the disruption and inconvenience caused by the world redistribution. We appreciate your understanding and cooperation as we work towards alleviating major congestion and transforming physical data centers into one large community. And that's something you'll see quite a lot, is the idea that this will essentially, at the end of this, at the end of their plans in the future, probably be like a mega server sort of structure that everybody can intervisit between different data centers, logical and physical, eventually. Free Homeworld transfers and bonuses. As mentioned above, character data will not be affected after the redistribution, and players will be able to play with those on other logical DCs via data center travel. But for those who would like to transfer their homeworld for any reason for a limited period, the Homeworld Transfer service will be provided free of charge to characters on the Japanese data center. In response to player feedback, we will provide a period of free Homeworld transfers prior to the release of 6.1, in addition to the free Homeworld transfers period following the world redistribution. Reimbursements will be provided to those who paid for a transfer between Friday, March the 4th at 3 a.m. PST to Thursday, March the 31st at 59 minutes, 1 minute to 1 a.m. PDT. So the free Homeworld transfer period is Thursday, March the 31st PDT until the beginning of patch 6.1 maintenance, a limited period following the world distribution taking place in July 2022. So, overview. During this period, all players on the Japanese data center will be able to transfer their homeworld at no cost. In addition to the following accommodations upon homeworld transfer, players who own an estate will have the full cost of the land returned to them and receive an additional 3 million gil to compensate for lost furnishings. That's quite a large amount. Players who own an apartment will have the full purchase price of 500,000 gil returned to them and also get another 500,000 gil to compensate for their lost furnishings. It says here very specifically, for private estates, do not relinquish the land but remove all furnishings and your estate hall and then apply for a homeworld transfer. For apartments, do not vacate the apartment, but remove all your furnishings and then apply for your homeworld transfer. Please note that if you have relinquished a deed to your plot or the rights to your property, you will not be eligible to receive gil compensation. That the total amount of gil in your possession exceeds 999,999,999 gil, the excess amount will be discarded. I mean, I suppose there are people at gil cap. Holy, that's a lot of gil. I've never seen that much. Transfers to congested worlds will remain unavailable. Transferring to a preferred world will confer the usual transfer bonuses in addition to those listed above. Players transferring to standard worlds will not be able to transfer again until 3 days have passed. Characters that have transferred to a preferred world during the bonus period will be restricted from using the Homeworld Transfer service again for 90 days. Very important. So there's the reimbursement for homeworld transfers on the Japanese data center prior to this announcement. They'll reimburse those on March the 4th, as I've said. That goes all the way until March the 31st. Regardless of their reason for transferring, these homeworld transfer fees will be reimbursed in the form of Square Enix Krista. Interesting. As we'll be providing the reimbursement to affected players in order. No particular actions will be required of those affected to receive their reimbursement. Personally, I know Krista's more of a big thing in Japan. That's probably why they've done that. But if it was me, I would have preferred them to return it in the payment, that they actually used, like a credit card or such. But there's obviously reasons for that they don't mention here. Additionally, depending on the situation, players on the Japanese data center who relinquish housing plots or apartments in preparation for their transfer may be eligible for gil compensation. Similar to the bonuses outlined above, we apologize for the inconvenience and ask that you contact the support center with the details anytime between Thursday, March the 31st and the start of 6.1 maintenance. So if you have already done that accidentally or unintentionally, you will be able to get some support and probably that gil compensation. They do state that you need to put your homeworld name, character name, type of housing, all that information in that. Now, finally then, there is a Q&A section. It's not terribly enormous, so let's quickly look through this if there's anything of interest. It says, I would like to know more about copying crossword link shells mentioned during the letter from Reducer Live, part 69. Should some members of a crossworld link shell and a PvP team move to Meteor Data Center during the world distribution, a crossworld link shell / PvP team with the same name and details will be created. So basically, this is just going over stuff that they've talked about just in further detail. and reiterating for people who want that. This is obviously talking about the 30 minutes. Basically, yeah, it's going to base, on the congestion of the server. You can't expect it to be a 1 to 3 minute thing. It can be up to 30 minutes. That's a good average, I would say, but also putting a number on it is limiting themselves. I can imagine on an expansion launch, if it's anything like it has been before, it could be more than that, right? And they're covering their back here by saying up to 30 minutes. But it says may require more than 30 minutes when there is a significant degree of congestion. Yeah, such as the cases listed below, a surge of players after a patch update or expansion, congestion during player events. Yeah, it's fairly self-explanatory stuff, really. But you can imagine that usually on a normal day, it'll take 1 to 3 minutes for you to go on your character select screen and press transfer to another data center, like data center visit system. And that'll be the norm. But obviously on an expansion launch, when everybody is back and the numbers of, the population numbers are much higher, it can take 30 or more minutes. So it might not be a good idea to do that at that time, which does obviously limit the functionality of that system, obviously for people wanting to play together. But it is one of the restrictions that can't really be circumnavigated, as you can see, because, if it was a case of having access to affordable upgrade equipment for the company, they would have done that already. But at least they're approaching this in a professional way that does allow more people to log on at once, right? With the simultaneous logins increasing, as well as a new data center with 8 servers, which is, and redistribution, which should help. World redistribution, will it make it inconvenient for us to communicate? Well, that's a fairly straightforward thing. They do say, though it isn't an in-game feature, the 14 companion app for iOS and Android devices allows players to communicate and share schedules between Free Company, Linked Shell, and Crossworld Linked Shell members, regardless of their character's location. That is a good point, actually. I totally forgot about the companion app. You could just communicate through that, and it looks like the companion app might actually have more usability than it currently does in terms of, being able to communicate with people. Bear in mind, though, this is really quite a niche thing, mostly for console gamers, right? Because a lot of people who play on the PC will have stuff like Discord servers and things like that. But it's nice that they do have their own app. And I totally forgot it even existed, quite honestly. So you can communicate that way. It's quite good, actually, the companion app for communication. We've used it like once before, but it doesn't really work for my use case scenario because I use Discord anyway. But yeah. How will Crossworld Linked Shells and Friend List display players whose logical data center was changed through the redistribution? In the case that a Crossworld Linked Shell name is duplicated, basically it's just showing you how these things are working. The PvP team people will be removed from that. Yeah, it's what they've already talked about here. Friends list. Friends residing on other logical data centers will remain in your friend list. From 6.1, it will be possible to retrieve their online status and current world by pressing the designated button. And your blacklist. Blacklisted players from other logical data centers will remain on the list, and no change will be made to the display. That's surprising. I thought they might have hiccups with that. It seems quite well thought out, honestly. I don't see many hitches. Obviously, the original plan has changed a little bit in terms of when this stuff is happening, but for the most part, they have a solid plan. And I think this is quite a useful tool, obviously, for making more players be able to interact with each other, and also the server redistribution and new servers, are going to help for when we have the next big streamer move over and play 14 and things like that, as well as big expansion launches. So there we go. Hopefully me reading through that was helpful to you, and hopefully you have a better understanding of what's happening and how that's going to work. If you do not have full understanding, of course, please feel free. There'll be a link right at the top of the description of this video that you can click on and go and read through this in your own time. But yeah, for those of you who are traveling and don't have time necessarily in your day to read through an enormous paragraph or section of paragraphs, but can listen on your commutes, hopefully this was helpful. Much love, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will indeed see you all next time. Bye-bye.